As an appraiser, when you go look at property, you never know what you're going to find. Maybe you're going to stumble on a snake. Maybe there is a pig in the house. I mean, a big pig. Maybe you have those little ankle biter dogs, because the big dogs don't typically bite. It's always the little bitty rascals who say, my dog doesn't bite. Oh, yes, it does. Maybe it's a dangerous property and you're afraid you're going to fall through the floor. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen when you're a practicing appraiser and you go out to a property. You never know what you're going to see. Well, I've got a story for you. My good friend called me the other day. He was hammer dialing me, and I'm like, what does he want? He knows I'm probably in the middle of something, but I was a little concerned. I finally got a hold of him. He's like, I have a story for you. And I want you guys to hear the story as well. So come on back and join the conversation. Hi, this is Bryan Reynolds. You're listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast, brought to you as always by the great folks over at Appraiser eLearning. You need some education? Check us out at appraiserelearning.com. A special shout out to my sponsor, LIA Administrators and Insurance. Thank you so much for your continued support of the Appraisal Update Podcast. We certainly appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, you can watch this on YouTube as well. Just jump over to YouTube, search Appraiser eLearning. Go ahead and subscribe while you're there, and that way you can watch. And of course, you can always listen as you're driving if you prefer that. Without any further delay, I want to bring in my good buddy and fellow appraiser, Mr. Jason Covington. Welcome, Jason. Glad you're able to join us today.
Hello, Bryan. Yes, thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for carving out a few minutes to have me on your show. Thanks.
Listen, you have a story, my friend, and you called me the other day, and I know the story. I know it well. I lived it about when it was happening, really right after it was happening, and we talked about it. But I want to drag you back to the very beginning. Okay, I want you to tell this story to my listeners exactly how you told it to me, and then the conversation that entailed between you and I after that. And then there was a pause, and you had to make a phone call, and then you and I regrouped again later, right? So don't leave anything out. This is a great story, ladies and gentlemen. It's a little scary story, and maybe change your vocabulary a little bit from our phone call. This is a clean family program. So all right, Mr. Jason Covington, set the scene. What happened?
Okay, so you mentioned dogs on inspections. I wish this could be a dog story. However, it's not. I got an assignment for a conventional purchase, and the property was about 20 miles from the house, give or take. So it was a Sunday evening. I made the phone call to the agent to set up my Monday morning and called to schedule the inspection for 9 a.m. He said, the seller is currently living in the house. That should be fine. Let me call you back or text you back confirmation. Not a problem. Thank you. A few minutes later, he calls me back, says, hey, the homeowner is there, will be there. He'll let you in. He's expecting you at 9 o'clock Monday morning. I said, perfect. Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Hung up the phone, got up Monday morning, and it was a beautiful day. Absolutely gorgeous day. The sun was shining, and it was like a day where we had like a stretch of like 3 or 4 days in like the 80s. It was beautiful, and had the top down. Was fortunate enough to be in the convertible this morning, and went to this 20-minute drive out in the country. This property sat on 4 acres, and I pull up to the driveway at the mailbox and stop the car and get out, get my street scene photos left and right, turn around, look to the house, and it's about, I don't know, 3 football fields from the road. The house is set back, so it's a really long driveway. Beautiful grass, nice house set back there. You can see everything. It's a nice little drive up. So I drive up the drive real slow, and as I'm doing it, I take my front view photos.
Now, wait a minute. I believe you told me you were on the phone with an attorney. Weren't you talking to an attorney when you got there?
Not yet. We're
Oh,
gonna get
okay.
there.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Listen, I'm not. I'm gonna tell the. Listen, I'm gonna tell the story exactly like it happened, and then we
Perfect.
can fill in blanks afterwards because there's some things we might have done differently or not. I don't know.
Yep.
Continuing down the path of getting the appraisal photos, I get the front photo. The driveway leads me around to the right side of the house where the garage is. So as I pull up to the right side, I get the right side photo. I pull up into the driveway, but thinking I don't want to be blocking anybody if they're coming in and out. I'm going to be considerate of that. Let me back up out of the way and give anybody coming or going that I don't know about room to do so.
And
So I backed up.
I've got to interrupt again. This was at what time? What time were you
This
there?
I pulled up at 9:06.
9:06 on Monday morning. You had a confirmed appointment on Monday morning at 9 a.m. So you're 6 minutes late. No big deal, right? But that's critical. I just want to make sure that I remembered that correctly. 9:06. You're there taking your photos. Okay, you're around the side. You pull in. You didn't want to block somebody in. I assume you moved your car.
Yes, so I park along the fence. They have a wood fence that goes all the way, or privacy fence that goes all the way around the house, in a part of a smaller yard. Obviously, there's 2 or 3 acres back beyond the house. There's the front acre that I just drove through, and they got this fence that's this small little fence around the house. So where I parked was right on the right corner of that fence and the right side of the house, and out of the way by the driveway. In my white convertible, I pull up, park the car. I've taken all my photos from the front now. I'm walking on the exterior of the perimeter of that fence towards the back of the house. Look over the fence, take my picture, walk around to the left front side of the house and take my side view photo. At that point, my phone rings. Right as I take that picture, my phone rings. I answer the phone. I'm like, hey, this is Jason. And he goes, hey, this is so-and-so, so-and-so. And, it's an attorney. He needs some work done, what have you. And I'm like, oh, yes, absolutely. Hey, I'm sorry. I thought you were somebody else. Let me call you back. But right in the middle of that happening, I saw a movement from the right side of from the garage, the right side of the house where I just come from. I've done a circle around the house. And as I'm talking on the phone, I see that movement. And I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. Let me call you back. I thought you were somebody else. As I'm hanging up and saying that, I'm taking a few steps towards that figure, whatever I saw moving. I just gave it a glance, and I could see out the peripheral vision that person was coming my way as well. So we were meeting together, and I was talking on my speakerphone so he could hear me say, hey, I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of an appraisal inspection. Let me call you back. I apologize. Click. Saying all that, walking towards the guy. All that happens in a nanoseconds. I look up, and he's holding a gun. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? He goes, who are you? And I'm like, I'm Jason. I'm here to do your appraisal. He goes, you didn't knock the door. And I said, hold on, whoa, put your gun in your holster. Put your gun up. And as I tell him to do that, he slowly puts his gun in his holster.
It took a minute, though, right? I mean, he didn't immediately.
Yes,
he was holding his gun.
No, what's going on here? Who are you? I'm supposed to be here. The gun's still out. And I'm like, at that point, put the gun away. So he slowly puts the gun away. And I'm like, man, I had an appointment at 9 o'clock. It's 9:06. I'm holding a clipboard and a phone. And I'm getting madder. And you can tell now I'm getting mad.
Yeah.
It really struck a chord with me. And I said, man, I'm supposed to be here. I had an appointment with you. You know who's supposed to be here. And he said, why didn't you knock the door? You're supposed to knock on the door. We can get into that in a minute. We'll circle back to this audience in just a minute.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and it was what it was. And I'm like, hey, man, I don't know who you are or why you're so scared, what you're scared of. But I have presented zero threats to you. I'm in my blue jeans, my collared shirt. I'm holding an iPad and a phone. Why are you doing this? And he just said, you never knocked on my door. And then after that, there were some explicitives or whatever. And I think you've got some problems. And I probably shouldn't have said some of the things I did. The guy still had his gun. But at this point, I was no threat. And if he was going to shoot me, it'd have been in the back. Because I was already walking to my car. I walked right past him. This exchange happened like this. And then it happened like this. And then we were gone.
So you didn't say, all right, let's get on with it. Get out of my way. And You went to
Are
your
you
car to
kidding me?
leave.
Are you kidding me? No. Who's sticking? Listen, Bryan. Let me set you a little backstory. I'm a Texas boy. I grew up on the water, in the river, and in the woods. I've been hunting and camping all of my life. That's all we did as kids. We all had guns,
Yeah.
all of us.
Yeah. Sure.
I understand guns and everything. And even in my older years growing up, people carry, and you can carry a gun. I don't have a problem with you carrying a gun. I've been with people carrying a gun. You can put your hand on your gun if you would like. But the minute you take that gun out of your holster, that presents that presents a threat to me. That is now a threat. It's escalated. So that's what I felt when this guy had this gun pulled out. I mean, my immediately, like, time slowed down for me, so time slowed down. So it was good for me in panic situations. Some people, time speeds up for them, and that's not a good thing. And times can slow down for some people. And that's what it does for me in chaotic situations. So I could see everything in slow motion and in real time. And that's why I told him, addressed who I was and told him to put the gun up. And then we went further in the conversation after that. But I don't have a problem with guns. I have a problem with bad people with guns.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I got in my car and I left immediately.
Yeah.
I called my lender, which is one of my favorite lenders, as a matter of fact. And I'm like, hey, guys, this is just what happened. Oh, no. Oh, you see, I'm so sorry, Jason. I am so sorry. I mean, their boss's boss gets on the phone. I had 4 people on the line at one time apologizing to me. And I'm like, hey, guys, it's not, y'all didn't do this. There's something wrong with this other human being. Listen, at the time, Bryan, to answer your question, I did tell them, because they're one of my favorite clients, I did tell them, if the agent comes and meets me back there with the homeowner gone, I would be more than happy to take care of you guys. But after further thought.
Yeah. Stop right there. Because I know you and I have had a conversation about that time too, right? That's about the time we talked. And I gave you my opinion on what you should do. But hold that thought. And we'll come right back to that in just a second, okay? Wow. I can't wait for you. I can't wait for you to hear the rest of the story. And then we're going to talk about maybe best practices and maybe things that you should consider doing so that a similar situation doesn't happen to you. And quite frankly, you certainly can't control what other people do. But we'll give you some tips and tricks to maybe think about to hopefully avoid what Jason got himself into. But before we go there, since 1978, LI Administrators and Insurance Services has been offering E&O insurance to valuation professionals just like you and me. They apply superior customer service and exceptional liability education, unparalleled claim defense to serve well over 10,000 real estate professionals all across the country. LIA offers commercial bonds, general liability, cyber liability, and so much, much more. Check them out at liability.com to learn how they can help you protect you and your business. Again, I'd like to thank LIA for their continued support of the Appraisal Update podcast. They're a regular supporter and sponsor of the Appraisal Report webinar, and they come to all our conferences. So thank you, LIA. All right, Jason, back to you, buddy. Continue.
I can pick it up. So at that point that I called the lender back and told him, hey, I'm happy to help you guys. Just remove the guy from the house. I'll meet the agent. I'll take care of y'all. We'll knock this thing out. I call you. You don't answer. I call you. You don't answer. I called you and you don't. Anyway, you finally pick up. And I'm like, you're not going to believe it.
I thought you were dying or something, which you might have been.
And so you and I had our conversation, and you kind of snapped me back into some thinking and made me realize I'm never going back to that house again. And we'll talk about that, audience, here in a minute, I guess, but never going back to that house again. And so I called the lender back and said, hey, I think it's just best practice I don't go. But before I could even do that, they said, hey, he called us and he said he's not leaving his house. He's not leaving his home. Okay.
Yeah, because you had alluded that, hey, if you get him out of there, obviously we had a bad initial meeting, right? It didn't go well.
Something went wrong.
Our first date didn't go well. I think it would be better if he's not there when I come look at that property. And so you were gracious enough to even consider doing that. And then
I thought so.
they said, look, he ain't leaving his property. He's not going to let some shady looking guy like you roam around his house if he's not there. So let's talk about that. One of the reasons I recommended to Jason, look, do not proceed, because in my opinion, they had that bad experience with one another. And while Jason would do a good job, he'd be ethical. I mean, he's not going to let that bias him. I know Jason well enough. He's one of the good guys. I mean, he would calm down. There's a bad incident, but things happen. Let's move on, right?
Go do the job. Yeah.
If Jason appraised that property and that property owner didn't like the results of the appraisal, he immediately might think, oh, Jason did that on purpose. Although Jason would do that, the property owner might think he did to get back at him or to teach him a lesson or something like that. Nothing good was going to happen, in my opinion, with Jason proceeding and doing that assignment. It's not worth one fee, regardless if it's a big fee, in this one assignment, right, to run that risk. And that's a business decision. If you want to do that, listeners, if you want to do that, that's totally your prerogative. You're the captain of your ship. You can make that business decision. But when I have an interaction like that, if somebody's mad at me, I just decide, we're not going to do it. So you ended up not doing it, right?
Correct. We mutually agreed to just go our separate ways, and they'll find somebody else to do it. And that lender, still have a great relationship with them and do lots of orders with them. Nothing ever happened with the lender and me. It just solidified our relationship. They know who I am. I know who they are.
Sure. It didn't jeopardize a relationship there. So a couple of things, and then we'll get into maybe some considerations moving forward for you and I, as well as the listeners, right? Before we do that, I do want to give an example of where I did something similar and said, I'm not going to proceed with this assignment. We had an electrical storm here in my little town. I mean, a storm came through, lightning everywhere, and guys, it was making contact. It hit the theater over there where my brother works. Jason, you've been there to see some plays. Power lines down everywhere. Trees were down everywhere. It was a very dangerous event happening. And I had an appointment to look at a property during the middle of this storm. And one of my team members called the property owner and said, look, we're going to have to reschedule this. We can't get it. What? And the homeowner's response was, well, it's not storming out here. Well, that may very well be true, but it's storming where we're at, and we got to get there. And they're telling folks not to be out. It's very dangerous. There's flash flooding. There's trees down everywhere, power lines down everywhere, and it's still storming. It's not over. And so the gentleman was not happy at all. And I remember the next day I was in the office, and one of the team members tried to call him to reschedule, and he was mad as he could be. He called the bank. He had the bank call us, and he was mad that we were now scheduling him. I mean, we were just trying to fit him in the next day where we could, right? Because we already had other appointments. Well, he was mad that we didn't bump him in front of everybody else. And so I understand he wanted to get us out there, I totally understand that. But then he started getting nasty, and he was speaking very, very bad, really verbal abuse to my team members. And so when I called him back, he said, great. He was a little nicer to me, but not super nice. Great. When are you going to come out here? And I said, I'm not coming out there. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to call the bank and let them know we're going to decline this assignment, and they'll find another appraiser and he certainly wasn't happy, but he wasn't happy from the get-go. And I told my team, there's no reason for us to do that appraisal. He already has a very sour taste in his mouth about us. If we were to proceed and do that appraisal and he didn't like the number, right? Which our job isn't to just make people like the number. We're supposed to develop that independent, impartial, objective opinion, and whatever it's at is what it's at. But if he didn't like the results of that, he very well may have pointed a finger, and it just wasn't worth us proceeding with that. Okay? So let's talk about best practices for a minute. I have some Airbnbs. Yesterday, we had a tenant that had been in the property for, Jason, I think about 5, 6, 7 days, several days. Great, love it when that happens.
Good.
And our checkout time is 11 o'clock. Our cleaner, Courtney, went over to clean the property. It was 12 o'clock. No cars there whatsoever. She opened the door, went in. Somebody was sleeping in the pull-out sofa. There were 6 people in this house. She's like, oh my gosh. And immediately checked on it, and they, I guess, forgot it was checkout day or forgot what time check. And they apologized. Oh my gosh, we'll get stuff together and we'll get out as quickly as we can. Sorry. The point is, fortunately, nothing happened. Courtney went in, oops, sorry, walked back out, resolved the issue. But you walk right in there, and this guy staying there may have had a gun. Well, we know he's got a gun. Sees somebody walking in the door, and God knows what could have happened. So when I go look at a property, even if I know the house is empty, I bang on that door. And before as I'm opening that door, I'm hello, and I'm yelling it. I showed a house. I'm a real estate agent too. I don't do a lot of that. Do a little bit. Showed 2 houses last night. First one was empty. That's exactly what I did. And before I went down the basement, I'm yelling, hello. The second house is occupied. We get there. The detached garage door is open. There's 2 dogs in the back running around, barking at me. Car in the driveway, 2 cars out on the street, and the door is open. The storm door's shut. I can hear when I go up and bang on the door, the TV's on. And I know this guy works nights and sleeps during the day. I'm like, he's probably in the other room sleep. I'm not walking in there. I'm banging on the door. There's no answer. I texted one of my clients is there. Her husband got lost. And so I'm trying to text the agent, hey, is it okay for us to go in? I'm waiting. I told my client, Nicole, I don't think anybody's here. They probably, but I'm not sure. I said, we can attempt, but I'm going to bang on that and yell when we walk in. She's like, okay. So the funny thing is, I'm banging on the door. I'm like, hello. They had not a Ring doorbell, but they had a camera up on the edge that apparently has speed. And the homeowner must have been watching us. She's like, it's okay. We're gone. You go on it, and came through. And about that time, ding, the agent said, yes, they left the door unlocked and open for you. Go on in. But guys, I was very cautious, very leery about just walking in like that. And so Jason and I talked about maybe some best practices, and we do the outside first, kind of like Jason does now, as we use the iPad and use the sketching thing. We got to do that from the outside first. So we're like you, Jason. I used to always do the inside first. Now we do the outside. But when we go to a property, and this takes my time, and I hate it, it bugs me. We do knock on that door. They come answer the door. And they try and let me in. I'm like, we'd like to do the outside first. It'd be, 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on the size. And we identify ourselves. We let them know, and they said, that's fine. And I think, Jason, you and I talked about at least do that on the phone, right? When you call, say, hey, to let you know, I'll be at the property at 9 or 9:06, but to give you a heads up, I'm going to do the outside first. So you might see me out, doing that. The problem that you run with that is you didn't actually talk to that property owner, right? You had a liaison. You talked to the real estate agent. Is it? So you might communicate that to the agent, and do we really know whether or not the agent communicated that to the property owner? So I don't know. Knocking on the door might be the best practice.
I think the property owner in this case knew that he knew who I was and knew I was supposed to be there, but had some ulterior motive. I don't really understand what his situation was. But like you say, my normal practice is to walk the homeowner through the process really quickly when I'm scheduling the appraisal. I'm going to be there at so and so time, and I'm usually always on time within 6 minutes. Usually, I'm very good about timing.
Yeah.
Even if I have multiple scheduled in a row. So, with that being said, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'll be there at 9 o'clock. I'm going to photograph and measure the exterior. If you have any dogs, put them up because I'll be in the backyard as well. You'll see me around the house, and then I'll knock on the door. At that point, I'll come in. I'll go room to room. I'm going to take some pictures, take some notes. We'll have a conversation. So I kind of give them a lineup of what I'm going to do and what's expected. I think they appreciate that, and it sets a tone for the whole inspection. And that usually works very, very well. And knowing that over, I've been doing this for a long time and I've heard other people's experiences, but I have all these things in my mind, proper things to do. What's the right way to go about this, etc. And in this scenario, it just ended up happening the way it did. And, but it does, I should have, listen, that's what I should have done. Here's the takeaway. I should have parked my car. And who cares if it was more convenient to get the one and the two last photos and then knock on the door? I should have come over here, knocked on the door. Hey guys, it's me. I'm here. Conduct my business and carry on. And that's exactly what I will do every time moving forward.
Hey, not only is this a lesson learned for you, it's a lesson learned for me, and hopefully
Correct.
at least some of the viewers or listeners that are tuning in right now. And I just wrote something down. I don't know if you see that. It says dogs with some stars beside it. When you said, hey, put your dogs up, what a great idea. That's something I'm going to do. In fact, Jason, I think this is what we're going to start doing. It is common practice for one of my team members when they call and schedule the appointment. Molly normally does it now. Say, Mr. Covington, hey, Bryan will be out at your property. We normally give a range. And that's why when the lady was mad and said, you're late, she remembered the front end of the range instead of the range itself. And
I'll do a range too.
We'll normally say, hey, Bryan will be out there between 3 and 4. And if anybody complains about that, I push back. I say, look, homeowner, we're not as bad as the cable guy, because they'll tell you you've got to be there. Either you pick morning or afternoon. Which do you want?
Happier day.
These homeowners get mad, and it's like, come on. And I'm talking to you homeowners right now if you're watching. Come on. I mean, when you go see a doctor and you have an appointment at 10 a.m. and you're sitting out in the waiting, if it's 10, 10, 10, 15, 10:30, do you get mad and leave and say, this dang doctor? Maybe you do, but I doubt it, because most of the time when you go see the doctor or a dentist, you got to wait. And they try to get you back there, but it's impossible to get a precise time all of the time, because I have every intention to be at your house at 3. But guess what? The last house I was at was double the size I thought. It had an ADU. It had 2 caves on the property. I'm a little longer than what I thought I would be. They didn't tell me they had all that stuff. So I'm sorry I didn't get there at 3. I got there at 4, which was within my time range to be there, 3 to 4. And if I run later than that, I'll give you a call. But here's what we do, Jason. When we call and make that appointment, Mr. Covington, Bryan will be there between 3 and 4. We would like to send you a questionnaire. And we have a printed questionnaire. And it saves everybody time, because it's a list of questions you would normally ask when you're on site. And so, we'll send that list of questionnaire. You know what we're going to do as a consequence of our call today, our meeting today? I'm going to put items of what we just talked about. When the appraiser gets there, they're going to look at the outside first. They're going to measure. They're going to take photographs. Please put your dogs away. And I got that from you just now. And so we're going to give kind of a little list of what we expect the property owner to do in preparation of our visit. I think that's a great idea. I think that will be helpful. Maybe it would have stopped what happened to you the other day. And if not, maybe it will stop that from happening to another appraiser that we care about. We don't want a gun pulled on anybody, for crying out loud, or bad behavior. Jason, thank you so much for carving out some time and being with us. I know business is picking up. You're busy, and man, this is the second podcast I brought you in. I don't normally have a guest come back so soon, but I thought this was a great story. I wanted you to share it with the listeners. Hey, Jason, where are you going to be coming up? If somebody wants to meet you and shake your hand in person, where can they do that?
Next up for me is Val Expo. I'm fired up about Val Expo. That's August 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd.
Yeah, right around the corner.
Yeah, it's right around the corner. I just booked my flights last week, so on the Big Bird I'll go. I'm looking forward to Val Expo for a couple of different reasons. I've attended, the appraisal summits and the ACTS conferences, more appraisal driven and appraiser focused, I would say, versus what I think I'm going to experience at Val Expo, being more lenders, AMCs, with the smattering of appraisers, sure. But I think the bigger majority will be where my business comes from, how those people act and conduct, and meeting and building relationships. I think this will be great. I'm really excited about the Val Expo.
We're super excited that you're coming. This will be your first Val Expo, if I understand that right. Okay, great,
Yes, sir.
great. Well, we will certainly see you there, and then after Val Expo, you'll be back for the summit, right?
Correct. Back to Vegas at the summit.
Appraisal Summit in September. So hopefully you can make both. We'll be at Val Expo in August. Come up and say hi to Jason and myself. If you can't make that one, come back to Vegas in September. What a great excuse to go to Vegas back to back, right? I'll be there in August. I'll be there in September. Come on out and say hi to Jason, myself, and the entire team. Jason, thank you so much for being here. If somebody wants to reach out to you directly, how do they get in touch with Mr. Covington?
Yeah, email's the best way. It's my name, jason.covington, the number 13 @gmail.com.
Thank you very much, Jason, for being here. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. It's been fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast, brought to you as always by the great folks over at Appraiser eLearning. I'd like to thank once again my sponsor, LI Administrators and Insurance. If you would like to be a guest on the program, or you know someone that would be a great guest like Jason, give us a call. Let us know. We'll send an invite out. We would certainly love to have them on the program. Until next time, make some money, take a little mini vacation, take the weekend off, for crying out loud, and kick your feet up and enjoy yourself. And until next time, happy appraising.
The Appraisal Update Podcast is brought to you by Appraiser eLearning.